This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Still waiting in line? Again? That's time you'll never get back. Save time and money with Stamps.com. Over 4 million businesses have skipped the line with Stamps.com. Join them to save up to 90% off carrier rates from your computer or phone right now. Print postage for certified mail, registered mail, and packages in seconds. Then schedule a pickup right from your home or office. For a limited time, go to Stamps.com and use code PODCAST for a free welcome gift. Taxes and fees apply.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio Classics, where we take a look at an older episode of Dead Rabbit Radio and do some behind-the-scenes stuff, a little director's commentary for the podcast. I'm a huge fan of director's commentaries, and since I don't make movies, this is my way of doing it. If I was a listener, I'd love this stuff, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. I actually have a lot to say about this episode, so let's go ahead and get started. Episode 200. You're like, Jason, all of these classics are you just complaining about the show? Is this going to be more of that? Let's go ahead and take a listen to episode 226, Deadly Ghosts, an interactive adventure. A road in England has an unusual assailant. And then what happens when bad journalism meets the paranormal? You get an interactive adventure today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. Just a quick reminder, we do have our merch store up if you want to help support the show, support the channel. Check out our merch store. We got stickers and we should have a calendar, but we don't. We have stickers and a t-shirt and posters. Help us support the channel, wear the swag, get the word out. It all is awesome, and you will look good doing it. Unless the sticker. I mean, you can't wear a sticker. You put it on something, and then you look good holding that thing with the sticker on it. Let's go ahead and move on to our first story. Now, our first story is actually a request from Stuart Meatball on YouTube. Now, we were talking... I don't remember what the reference was. We were talking recently about something from Britain. Some British story. It might have been The Grinning Man. I'm not for sure, but we were talking about something in Britain on the podcast that I can't remember, so I'm sure it was super memorable. But Stuart says, have you ever heard of the hairy hands of Devon? And it's also sometimes known as the hairy hands of Dartmoor. You know what? I don't get it about England. Like, they gotta have 10 names for everything. So this story, this is my notes right here. It says, it takes place in England, in the county of Devon, on the road in Dartmoor in Postbridge. And then I have a little thing going, Town City? Like, I don't know what is what over there. So, again, I can never make heads or tails of where anything is at in Britain. So let's just assume this is 2 miles south of the Shire. And actually, they call stuff shires over there, so that joke actually isn't a joke. It's a fact. So I'm just done trying to figure out stuff that happens in Britain. But before I completely give up on that entire country, let's talk about the hairy hands of the country of England and the county of Devon and the road in Dartmoor and Postbridge. So imagine you're driving day or night. It doesn't really matter with this phenomenon. You're driving down this road in, we'll say, Dartmoor. You're driving down this road. You're like, Jason, I want to go there. I want to know where it's at. You just can't rant about the geographical listings in England. But okay, check out the show notes. You're driving down Dartmoor. Everything's going fine. You got your one hand on the wheel, the other hand on your honey, because you're Winnie the Pooh. That's a literal honey. And you're driving down the road. Get your head stuck in a beehive. You're driving down the road, and you start to feel the car veer a little bit to the right. And you're like, oh, I better correct. Oh, bother. Better correct. That might have been the worst Winnie the Pooh impression on record. Anyways, forget Winnie the Pooh. You're driving down the road, and it starts to lean a little bit to the other side, and you're like, oh, I better correct the other way. And this is going on, and then you see it. Materialize out of nothing, you see two hairy hands, two hirsute hands, grab your steering wheel and begin shaking it violently one way to the other. You lose control of your vehicle. It goes careening off the road. It's all tipped over. There's one tire still dramatically spinning. You see like smoke coming out of the hood. And as you crawl out of your car, you see the hairy hand slowly disappear. Now, that sounds like a ridiculous story. And it is, but a lot of people have experienced this thing. And what's odd about it is that these are all fairly recent. England's been around, if you don't know much about England, England's been around for thousands of years. So a lot of the hauntings and stuff we see over there are like, oh yeah, King Henry's ghost is floating around with this head of Anne Boleyn or whatever. This didn't start until 1910, and it actually preceded automobiles. Originally, well, it had some automobiles, but a lot of it was bicyclists, people riding their bike down this street. It's the road between Post Bridge and Two Bridges. I got far enough down in my notes where I have that specified. People would be riding their bicycle, and the bicycle would violently shift in one direction, and they'd go tumbling off. Back then, they would just kind of roll around on the ground and get back up, dust themselves off, and be like, what was that weird phenomenon? But obviously as automobiles became more prevalent, you begin having fatal accidents. People driving down this road 60 miles an hour, the car shifts to one side, people die. In 1921, there was a doctor who was riding his motorcycle, and he had two little girls. They weren't like just random girls that he kidnapped. His two daughters were in a sidecar, and the motorcycle completely veers off to one side of the road, and he dies, they survive. But they didn't mention it. They didn't say, oh yeah, I saw these big hairy hands show up. Looked like an Italian jumped on the front of the motorcycle. They didn't notice anything. They just realized that he had lost control, that they careened off. It was in August of 1921. It was actually just a couple months. That first one happened in June 1921, August 1921. There was an army captain driving down that same road, and he was the first one to see the hairy hands appear out of nowhere. And he had to fight for control of the vehicle. It crashed. He survived, obviously, so he could tell the story of the hairy hands. And then in 1924, oddly enough, there was a man and a woman in a caravan, which is an English word for a mobile home, and they were just chilling, hanging out in their caravan in 1924, doing whatever people listening to swing music or just sitting there feeling depressed. Did they have the Great Depression in England, or was that just an American thing? Did the English just go, whatever, like, stuff kind of cost a bit more? Was it not as bad over there? But anyway, they may have been living the high life then. They might have been way better off than us Dust Bowl Americans, but they're sitting in their caravan, and the woman notices there were disembodied hairy hands trying to, like, bang on the window, trying to get in. So it's not just that you had to be driving around. These hands, one, were intelligent. They could, they weren't doing like Sudoku or anything, but they were obviously smart enough to know which way to pull your car, which would make it careen, which I guess is any way you're not going will make you crash. But also to float around and try to break on windows and stuff. I guess that's not a sign of intelligence because a monkey does that. But anyways, she made the sign of the cross, the hairy hands disappeared. So you started having all of these sightings of this hairy hand attack in Dartmoor. And then the latest hand sighting, though, was in around 1962. So we did have an end to it. This one, again, was particularly creepy. This person's driving on the road, they pull over to the side of the road, and they need to check their map. Paper map, they didn't have MapQuest back then. Do they still even use MapQuest? They didn't have Google Maps back then. Imagine this, you're sitting in your car, and you hold up your map, and you're like, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here, and then I go to this county, and what? I just don't understand English geography. And then once you drop the map, like it's perfectly covering your view of the front windshield. Once you drop the map, there's hairy hands pressing on your front windshield trying to get in. Perfect jump scare moment. Dude freaked out, hit the gas, drove away. Hairy hands didn't get in. But so people really started looking into this because there was a ton of sightings in this area. And again, this is what I always find fascinating about these stories, is when we have an answer. Apparently, the road has what's called a camber, where it's pointy in the middle and sloped on both sides in certain places. Not an ideal situation for a road. And if you're going on a straightaway and the road will start to camber in certain points, guess what? Your car will veer to one side or the other. So there actually was a legitimate thing going on where people were getting into car accidents on this road more often than not. But it was because the actual shape of the road, you'd be driving straight and then it would start to, whatever reason they designed it like that. Or it was just an accident over huge stretches of road, but the road would start to lift up in the middle and be sloped on the sides, and you're going a straightaway. the road changes and you would careen off in one side or the other. They fixed the road and the sightings of the hairy hands stopped. But we have a natural reason for why people would be getting in car accidents. Why were people seeing the hairy hands to begin with? Here's my hypothesis, and I have no proof of this. What if the hairy hands weren't causing the accidents? What if the hairy hands were trying to stop the accidents? What if you were driving down this road and your car would start to careen and you would start to overcorrect? Hands would appear from somewhere to try to correct you into the right angle, and through panicking in your own power, because you don't give up to the hairy hands, just give up to the hairy hands. They'll take care of you. Because you fight it, you are causing the accident. I mean, either the hairy hands don't exist at all, it was like a total hallucination on the same stretch of road that people were getting into accidents on, or the road was already flawed and the hairy hands wanted to make more accidents, or the road was flawed, people were getting in accidents, and something was appearing to prevent them from getting in an accident. It's an interesting story, but I'm thinking of stuff like The Third Man, where we've talked about that on a past episode, when people would go on hikes and someone would appear and kind of guide them through the rest of their hike. Or maybe even a hairy guardian angel. I don't know. But hairy hands of Dartmoor between Post Bridge and Two Bridges, maybe you're the good guy. Maybe your hairy hands were sent from above to save the lives, and we, by overcorrecting, were making you the bad guy. So hats off to you, hairy hands. I have no other way to end that. Let's go ahead and move on to our next story. Now, let's talk about a little website called Backpackerverse. We talked about Backpackerverse yesterday, and I thought Backpackerverse was a website that talked about places to go hiking, hence the name Backpackerverse. I found out recently that that's not the case. That may be what they do, but if you go to their website, they have tons of stuff about psychics and astrology and ghosts, and that makes what's about to come even more egregious. Because when I thought they were just a hiking website that every so often did a ghost article, I could understand how something like this slipped through quality control. But if they do this on the regular, they got some serious problems over there. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I'm talking about. But first, I want you to pick a number. I want you to pick a number between 1 and 5. Okay, you got it? We're going to go on a journey. They wrote an article called The 10 Most Haunted Places in California That Will Make You Scream. Quite the mouthful. 10 Most Haunted Places in California That Will Make You Scream. Now, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of haunted places in California. But Backpackerverse said, let's just make it up. Let's just make stuff up. Because people who are into ghosts and the paranormal, they don't care about facts. They don't care about cross-referencing anything. They just want to read ghosts in something, the word haunted, and that's it. Now, to be fair, I did click on this article, so they got my eyeballs, and the article is going to be below, so they may have your eyeballs. But we're going to go through 5 of these, the top 5. And I want you to ask yourself 2 things. 1, the number you picked will be the way that you die. And 2, imagine a world where what I'm about to tell you is true. Imagine a world where the paranormal events I'm about to go through actually happen, are verifiable, because according to this article, these things are 100% true. Imagine how you would go about your daily life if you knew it was possible to die in one of these ways. First off, we're going to the Agua Manza Cemetery in Colton, California. As far as I know, these places don't even exist. But we're going there. And here we are going to meet the gang of dark souls. We're creeping through a cemetery, all spooky. What's it about full moons being scary? Is it because everyone goes crazy? I think crescent moons are kind of creepy too. But anyways, let's make it a crescent moon. Let's not be stereotypical. Walking through the cemetery, crescent moon hangs in the sky. Fog rolls across the ground. 100% true, this story is 100% true. You're walking through the cemetery, and you go, oh man, this place is creepy. I heard that bunch of celebrity ghosts died here. Good thing I'm just picked number 2. I don't think anything will happen to me if I pick number 2. But if you pick number 2, you see a figure out in the distance. A woman in white. The world-famous La Lorna ghost. Recently had a movie made about her. The ghost who drowned her own children, and now she spends eternity wailing for her own crimes. She's there. According to this article, 100% true. She's no longer just roaming around Mexico. She's in the Agua Mansa Cemetery, but that's not all. Also there is one of the Earps. Now, not the cool Earp, not Wyatt Earp, but his brother, Morgan Earp. So he's still a celebrity. A brother of a celebrity is still a celebrity. If you're walking through the cemetery, you see La Lorna. You want to get her autograph. But Morgan Earp sneaks up behind you. And he was hung by the neck, killed for whatever reason, for being a member of the law. Because weren't the Earps the good guys? Anyways, he was hung with a scratchy rope, according to Backpacker Universe, as opposed to the silk ones they used with everyone else. This rope was particularly scratchy because it says that he strangles you with the scratchy rope. Morgan Earp comes up behind you and says, "Say hello to my brother for me, the more famous of us." And as he's strangling you with this rope, number 2, La Lorna comes to you and begins vomiting blood down your throat until you both drown and are strangled. According to Backpacker Universe, you have a very, very possible shot of going into the cemetery and being killed by La Lorna and Morgan Earp. This article is not parody. This article is not an April Fool's joke. This is listed as something that can actually happen to you if you go to this cemetery. It's Friday. I'm a little feisty. I find it odd that somebody even thought for 1 minute that this was believable. That somebody thought that if you go to a cemetery, 2 celebrities will show up and kill you. 1, La Lorna doesn't vomit blood. I don't think even in the most liberal retelling, and that's not political liberal, but I mean in the most fanciful way of telling the story of La Lorna, I don't think she vomits blood. Secondly, Morgan Earp wasn't hung. He was shot to death. So scratchy rope or no, he would not strangle you with one. But if you pick number 2, enjoy your fictional death. And know that there are a lot of people out there who believe this story, and you proved it to be true. But let's go to DeForest Park in Long Beach. After twilight, the sun has set. Crescent moon in the sky. Fog. It's the exact same environment, except now it's in a forest, and there's no gravestones. And La Lorna may or may not be there, but not in this version. You hear someone laughing in the dark. And you turn around and you look through the forest. You remember stories of a serial killer here who used to bring his victims out here and then bury them, hoping that their skin would rot underground, and then he would dig them up and wear their skin. Which serial killer, you ask? Nobody knows. Backpacker Universe didn't tell us. When did he operate? How many victims did he have? Nobody knows. There's no references to who the supposed serial killer is, but you're walking through the forest. And this fictional serial killer, who's supposedly 100% true, still wants his skin. He jumps on you and digs sharp nails into your love handles and begins peeling you like a ripe banana in the summer sun. As he's lifting your skin off, he whispers in your ear, "If you pick number 4, you're the perfect fit." And then he just wears your skin around. Now, again, I don't want to hammer this point home, but if this guy existed, there wouldn't be any ghost hunters left. They'd all be skinned alive. This stuff, again, remember, haunted places that can make you scream. This stuff will happen to you if you go here. This stuff will happen to you. Now we're going to the Ortega Highway. They make delicious salsa, but they also make delicious death. Ortega Highway. This is in San Juan Capistrano. You're driving down the road. You know what? Just for the sake of this stupid article, Jason Jalape's back in action. It's back to its old broken down self can barely get us around, but we love it. We love the Jason Jalopy, and we are driving down the Ortega Highway. And in front of us, we see a bicycle riding. But not just any bicycle. A ghost bicycle, which has to be the most least threatening ghost vehicle possible. Ghost bicycle, ghost tricycle, creepy. Ghost car, terrifying. Even a ghost dirigible would seem almost like an alien life form, but a ghost bicycle is ridiculous. There's nothing threatening about it at all. There's nothing even threatening about someone on a bicycle. They could have a machine gun and you're going to be like, what are you going to do? You can't shoot me. You need both hands. But this bicyclist is riding in front of us. Now, it's not just that. I push you out of the car and you go, why? And I'm like, because you chose a number. Meet your fate. And now it's just you and the bicyclist in the middle of the road. And I'm just sitting safely in the newly repaired Jason Jalopy. Covered in Dead Rabbit Radio merch, Dead Rabbit Radio seat covers, Dead Rabbit Radio steering wheel column, Dead Rabbit Radio spinning rims, little Dead Rabbit logo spinning around. And you're out there in the middle of this hot summer heat with you and this ghost bicyclist. So how does he attack you? He doesn't drown you with blood. He doesn't choke you with an imaginary rope. He doesn't skin you. He takes his head off and rolls it across the ground. And as it's rolling towards you, the head goes, if you pick number 1, he bowls you over. That's it. Actually, you don't die from this one. This one, it just bowls you over. But this story has some quotes, has some great quotes. Here's a couple quotes from this story of people who actually saw this fictional thing that the author made up. The bizarre thing is that he uses his own head to bowl his victims over. Don't know how they verify that. Who are the victims? When did this happen? Has anyone ever seen this before? One witness said that he couldn't believe his eyes when he saw a bicycle helmet skidding along the ground. If a bicycle helmet sliding across the ground makes you rub your eyes and go, what? You live in a cave. That is such a mundane thing. Now, it's not something that you want to see, because it usually means that someone lost their helmet, but then you just pick it up and a guy goes, oh, that's where my helmet went. It's not unlikely or illogical to see a bicycle helmet moving across the ground. Odd? Maybe. But not, I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm surprised they didn't say, I almost went up to Jesus when I saw the bicycle helmet fall across the ground. It's not shocking. It's not shocking at all. And apparently, this guy knocks you over. That's it. He doesn't kill you. He puts his head back on and gets back on his bicycle and walks away. Rides away, actually, unless he's pushing his bike uphill. Tell me again, you have a ghost bicycle. What is the least... You have ghosts who look like wraiths. They're like flying around with chains and rags. You have ghosts in Elizabethan clothing. You have slave ghosts in like ragged slave clothes. A ghost in biker shorts and a super tight t-shirt that has a racing logo on it. That's not a scary ghost. There's no way you can make that ghost scary. At all. A ghost on a bicycle. But we're not done with our tour. We're going to the Whaley House. We're going to San Diego. The Whaley House is an abandoned house. But you can break into it. Like any house, you can break into any house. The moon is quarter full, which actually I think is still a crescent. But anyways, you break into the Whaley House. You're walking around with your flashlight, moving through the darkness, shining it around. Flashlights don't make noise, but yours does. You smell the smell of burning wood. Sandalwood. It smells quite good, actually. You're like, I need to pick up some incense on the way home. And then it turns to the smell of a woman's perfume. And right when your nose starts to get used to this new pleasant smell, you hear a baby crying. Wah, wah. Now, you know the story of the Whaley House. At least in this fictional version of you does, before you went into the house. You know that it's haunted by 2 ghosts. A baby, a little baby ghost, that's terrifying. A baby ghost on a bicycle in bicycle shorts? That's scary. A baby ghost. And then the baby ghost's older sister, Violet, who tragically killed herself. And according to this website, is... quote, still angry at the world, including the living. And what this woman does is as you're moving through the darkness of the house, looking for the crying baby, because you don't know if it's real or not. Maybe the one time you go is the time a real baby shows up. Just happens to be, parks his bike outside, goes inside, gets lost. You're moving through the darkness of the house, and Violet is moving around the shadows behind you. You see, there is no baby. There is no baby ghost, just Violet in the house. And she mimics the sound of the baby, the one sound that tugs at everyone's heartstrings, or the one sound they hate the most. They'll do anything to stop the sound of a crying baby. Either one works. So as you're moving through the house looking for this baby, she's stalking you. And right before her icy hands pull you into her dark world, never to escape, you hear her whisper in your ear, "If you picked number 3, you're mine forever." Now, we go to Stockton. And in Stockton is a place called 8 Mile Road. You're driving down 8 Mile Road, and you see a woman dressed in all white standing on the side of the road. It's a full moon now, and she's completely lit up by the moon. And you know in your heart of hearts that this is one of the famed women in white. Maybe LaLorna, maybe she's traveling from the cemetery, but there's hundreds of stories about women in all white walking around the sides of roads. Either brides who got killed in accidents, or just vengeful spirit, or a phantom hitchhiker. They almost are always wearing white in these legends. And you see one, and you think, that's it, I'm a ghost hunter. I am seeing a real-life apparition. I want to meet this woman in white. Maybe it'll be a love connection. Maybe I'll turn that white dress a little, maybe I'll do a little, I don't know, I don't know what innuendo I'm going for, but basically, maybe you'll bang the ghost, and she won't be able to wear white at her wedding, is what I'm trying to say in my bizarre Rodney Dangerfield impression. So, it was like more of a Yogi Bear. But anyways, hey, boo-boo, I'm going to take this woman's virginity. So, you pull over to meet this woman in white. Pop out with your camera. You're going to prove ghosts exist. Backpacker Universe would never steer you wrong. This place is really haunted. You jump out of your car, and as you run up to the woman to take her photos, you notice something. She's laughing. But not just laughing. She's laughing at you. And that's when you see, coming out of the bushes alongside of the road, figures crawling on the ground like worms, just kind of pulling themselves along the ground. There's a ton of them, dozens of people scooting around on their shoulders, can't move their arms, just kind of inching across the desert floor. I don't know if it's in the desert. It's in Stockton, actually. They're inching across this barren road towards you. And oddly enough, you recognize these people as people who had gone missing on this same road. Fellow ghost hunters, even, looking up at you, imploring you to run, but they can't say anything. They can just inch across the dirt towards you. And that's when you feel a cold hand reach into your back, and with one swift tug, pull out your entire spinal cord, Sub-Zero style. And as you fall to the ground, completely immobile except for the ability to kind of move your shoulders and inch along the ground like all the victims before him, you hear a voice go, "If you picked number 5, takes a big bite out of your spinal column, you're delicious." Now I want you to imagine that you've picked your numbers, you've died your ways that you died. I want you to imagine you're an editor for a website called Backpackerverse. No matter what number you picked, you're an editor for this website. And a journalist who writes for you, you say, "Hey, I got an assignment for you. I just want you to go online, do some research, find the 10 most haunted places in California. We'll throw it on, Winchester Mystery House, a couple other stuff, famous stuff. You could do the Presidio, you could, whatever. Just go get me the 10 most haunted places in California. Bring me the article. You have until noon tomorrow, Parker. Get on it!" And then you go about doing your business. And then the next day, a journalist brings to you an article, and you're like, 10 most haunted places in California that'll make you scream. This is gold, Parker! And then you read those stories. 100% made up. Like I started off talking about the Morgan Earp thing, and really just kind of shoot that one down. There is no place on earth where ghosts eat your spines or throw their heads at you. I've never heard of that stuff before. And this stuff, again, there's 10 of them. I left out 5 of them because it was just stuff like you walk through a cemetery and a bunch of maggots show up. Of course, it's a cemetery. I'll give them credit for that one just because that's fairly logical. But one of them was in Sacramento, about the old tunnels under Sacramento. The old tunnels in Sacramento are haunted. There are sightings of a ghost in the buildings that were built over the tunnels. That's legit. Put that in your list. They said if you go under those tunnels of Sacramento, a bunch of rats show up, and then a giant morphine dude like T2 comes out of the ground and will kill you. And it states only one person's ever left the tunnels alive. That's not true. That's not true at all. People go down there all the time. That's where all the junkies live. I'll say this. I wouldn't recommend going down there because the junkies may kill you, but people go down there. 100% fictional. 100% fake. I'm besides myself when I was reading this article. Now, listen. I'm just, I don't want to go too much on, like, you don't have to take this stuff seriously, but you don't have to make stuff up. I would have loved to have been sitting there as this author turned in this article. Because it's either this guy either believes these things are true, or it's 100% made up. And if it's 100% made up, he convinced someone it was true, which I think is absolutely hilarious. I think we've gotten to a point where you can basically say anything that involves ghosts or demons or something, and someone will believe it. Ripping someone's spine out. Can you imagine living in a world where that happened? Can you imagine the news report? Can you imagine watching the news and being like, there's another death on 8 Mile Road today. We don't know what happened to him, but his spine appears to be eaten out. But the funny thing is like, part of me wants to live in that world. Like, no, I don't want to get my spine eaten out. And I will say the one at the Whaley House actually was a creepy short ghost story. They could have said 10 creepy made up stories we made. But it's this weird thing because on the one hand, I read this and I go, this is completely fictional. I can't believe this. Seems like it should be in The Onion, making fun of ghost hunters. This stuff's totally made up, rolling heads after people. Come on, that's totally fake. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be awesome if there was that level of a threat, that level of a paranormal threat out there? And that's why I also wanted to highlight this. One, I thought it was funny that people actually could put this, and people believe this. I'm sure there are a lot of people who've read this website uncritically and go, oh, I better not go to the Whaley House. Someone might imitate a baby and pull me into another dimension. But, like I said at the beginning, I want you to imagine living in a world like this. Could you imagine living in a world where the Bermuda Triangle was real, and you knew if you flew across it, there was a chance you would go back in time? Or that if you went out to this graveyard, Lorna would vomit blood down your mouth. It's funny because you want it to be true. You want this stuff to be true. That's what I find so fascinating about this stuff. This is the world that I want. That doesn't mean it's cool to write about. That doesn't mean that you should lie to people. But this is the world I think we all want to live in. The world where conspiracies are real. The world where ghosts are everywhere and they can hurt you. You can communicate with them. You can make deals with the devil. You can make deals with the angels. You can experience the reality that is above reality. A world where the paranormal posed a real threat would be a terrifying world. It would be an exciting world. It would be a world where everything was questioned and nothing was taken for granted. When your child tells you there's a monster under your bed, you would call the police. Life in that world, to paraphrase a great man, would be terrifying, brutal, and short. But it would be one hell of a ride. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. Twitter is Jason O. Carpenter. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal conspiracy and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great weekend, guys. I'm not one to pat myself on the back a lot. That's not true, actually. I am my own biggest cheerleader. I think you have to be. But if you've listened to these classics episodes, I am pretty harsh, especially on the older ones. Usually the humor, I'm like, oh, that joke sucks, that joke sucks. And don't worry, I'm going to be saying that this episode as well. But I really enjoyed this episode. I haven't listened to it since 2019. Since it came out. I picked it at random. And I do have a few complaints about it, but I was kind of like, see, this is an episode that if I was a first-time listener and I heard Grand Soil Unified Theory, if I'd found that on the Conspiracy Theory Iceberg, it'd be interesting that someone was talking about it, because when I was covering the Iceberg stuff, nobody else was doing it. Wendy Goon took the Conspiracy Theory Iceberg and made it mainstream. Hats off to Wendy Goon. Great channel. But when I was doing it, no one else was doing it. So if you were looking at stuff on, and that wasn't a knock against Wendy Cohen, I'm not calling him a normie for making it mainstream. No, anything that gets more eyes on conspiracy theory content, paranormal content, I'm totally fine with, just so we're clear. But someone would Google Grand Soil Unified Theory, they'd find my episode. That was cool, but I just don't think it's a good episode. I think the delivery is totally wrong. This episode works. If I was a first-time listener and I happened to stumble across this podcast, say I was Googling the hairy hands at Dartmoor and this episode popped up, I'd be like, okay, I want more of this. I think it worked. I think that this isn't me complaining. This isn't going to be me going boo, boo the whole time. I'm going to say it a couple times, but let's talk about the stuff that worked. Not having listened to this in a long time, I didn't know what to expect. I actually played along with the interactive adventure. And when I say I didn't know what to expect, that creepy laugh came out of nowhere. It actually creeped me out. I was listening to this episode, I'm getting ready to travel. I was listening to that episode about 4 a.m, the day before I fly out. That's how much work I'm trying to get done before I leave. And when that laugh kicked in, I'm not going to say it sent chills up my spine or anything, but it was definitely unexpected. And the way it was going from ear to ear. And at a certain point, I kind of wanted it to be over with. Not because I think the joke ran its course, but because it was unnerving. I think there's some... I struggle with that. How many effects do I put into the show? We talked about that on a recent Classics episode, so I'm not going to go over it all again, but it's more effective when they're rare. If I did something like that every episode, it would be cool. It would be a lot more work on my part. It would add a production value to the podcast for sure. There's a lot of bonuses to that. But there's a big bonus to not doing it all the time, and that is it's super effective because you don't expect it. And even at the ending, right, I was getting ready to shut off the episode because, the outro music was starting up, and I reached over to shut off the episode and it started up again, and I was like, oh, okay, that's still pretty creepy. I really liked that. I liked the combination of the stories. I always try to balance out ghosts with aliens, or aliens with conspiracy, or true crime with cryptids, or whatever. Ghosts and cryptids. I try not to do a ghost-heavy episode, and this is one of the episodes where actually everything I talk about is ghosts. I think it works, though. I really think it does. First off, hats off to Stuart Meatball as well. He's a long-time listener of the show. I hope he's doing well. I haven't talked to him in a while. We used to talk in the YouTube comments a lot. It's interesting, and this is not knock against you guys. I don't know what it is. I get less YouTube comments now than I used to. I think the reason why I get less YouTube comments is because I used to be able to respond to them all the time. And then as I got busier, I wasn't able to do that. But I do read all the comments. And I do need to respond more often. Stuart responded a lot in YouTube comments. It's pretty cool when you interact with you guys and in a way get to know you guys. I like that part of it. I really do. The Hairy Hands of Dartmoor, it's a great story, right? In and of itself, I think it pales in comparison to the second half. I think the second half is kind of firing on all cylinders. This is an episode as compared to yesterday's Classics, which was the one about the Nickelodeon songs. I'm in the zone in this episode. Everything just feels supernatural. I'm supernatural, talking about the supernatural, except the jokes. Again, the whole, like, Dartmoor, Dartshire, what is this place? Ugh, it's dumb. It's all really bad. All of those jokes, none of them fall. And what's funny is I put this episode in, I picked it at random, and that's how it started off, and I was like, this is a waste of my time. This episode's gonna suck. I know it's gonna suck. I'm just gonna get cringed out by my own stuff. The jokes, the Winnie the Pooh joke I actually laughed at when I said you had your arm around your honey, and then I said Winnie the Pooh. It's funny because I'll be honest, I don't know if everybody does this, but when I read stuff online, I think I might be the only person who does it, because when I mention this to people, they go, oh, what? When I read stuff online, I assume I'm talking to a man, unless there's context clues that let me think it's a woman. There are so many times in my stories, like let's say I find a narrative online, I assume the guy's a dude. Someone says, when I was 6 years old, every so often I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and there would be a silhouette of a man standing at the foot of my bed, and then crazier things happen. I will say, let's call the guy Adam. So anyways, Adam, and I don't know if that's a boy or a girl. I default to dude, and I wonder if that's because I'm a guy. And when I say that, people go, what? No, it's not. This is not a normal thing. People don't default to the anonymous as the same sex. One thing that what I do with the show, though, too, I try not to, but I also don't want to overcorrect. I don't want to say his or hers, honey. Like, I don't want to, I think that breaks up the narrative flow. But I just default to, and I know I have a lot of listeners that are women, but I default to a put your arm around your honey, go home, your wife's yelling at you, your girlfriend broke up with you. You know, I'll use all of those examples as generic examples. So you're hanging out with your girl down at the park, and then this thing happens. It's something that I'm aware that I do, but the fix would be you're hanging out with your wife or husband, or you're all alone, or you're in a throuple, and it's like, I don't know, you got to keep the narrative concise. So that's one thing that I do too. I actually really try to avoid doing this, is assuming the Patreons are also dudes. I mean, maybe it's just a me thing, maybe it's a boomer thing. It's just a thing, right? I don't know if it's a psychological thing. I don't know if it's something everybody does, but you know, I told the honey joke in this one, and I probably, honestly, when I was recording it, realized that, again, women don't refer to their significant others as honeys, so I probably threw that joke in there as a kind of riff on that, like basically an in-joke, and only one person knows the joke, me. But yeah, it is something I always, I bet you if you did a breakdown of the stories, you would say 80% of them involve men and 20% involve women, when in fact, the stories that I'm reading, it could be 50-50. It could actually be less men and like 60-70% women. I just default to I'm assuming it's a guy. Unless I'll get my notes typed up as I'm reading the story, and then they said, well, then my best friend, this actually happened recently, I was doing a story, and it was, I've said that it was a boy, and their house was haunted by the white blobs floating in the ceiling. And I typed up my notes, and I named the person Billy or whatever it was. Dylan. A male name. And as I'm typing the notes up, it gets to the part where there's a slumber party. And the narrator, who we don't know if it's a boy or a girl, the narrator says, so eventually I had a sleepover with my best friend Jill, and she had a twin brother named Jack, who I wasn't friends with him, but the twins never hung out by themselves, so he came along too. And I go, oh, it's probably a girl. It's probably not a Billy or a Dylan. Actually, those are both girl names as well, but then I went back, and I think I changed the name to Anna or Monica or something like that. It's not a huge deal. There's nothing in the narrative itself that said one way or the other, but I go, well, probably 12-year-olds sleep over, it's probably a girl. And so, those are distinctions I make, and I do it to be concise. It could not be correct. I could be getting it mixed up. Actually, I won't say the name or the episode just because it's very embarrassing, but I had a listener send in a story a long time ago, and they said, yeah, this thing happened to me and my boyfriend were out at this site, and I don't remember the exact particulars. It was a creepy story that was sent in by a listener. So when I told the story, I said, let's go ahead and call her Monica. I think I gave him fake name. I don't remember, but anyways, I said a boy and a girl are walking around. And then after the episode came out, the dude emailed me and says, oh, dude, I'm not a girl. I'm gay. I'm a gay guy, and that's my boyfriend. And I go, oh, okay, sorry. I made that judgment call. He was totally fine with it. He goes, it's actually kind of funny, but those calls you make, right? That was a mistake. That was actually a mistake. But when I'm telling a narrative, I don't know if it's boy or girl, and instead of saying, let's give him two names. If it's a boy, it's Monica, and if it's a guy, it's Adam. Now, Adam and or Monica were walking, you know what I mean? Like, I just have to make a judgment call. That's probably what I think I did here. I am aware that it's an issue. It's not like a game-breaking bug, but I think I go, you have your arm around your honey, and then I go, well, there's a lot of women listening to the show. I made a joke. I don't do that all the time. Usually I just stick with it. Yeah, your wife left you, and women listen to the show. Go, it's Jason. Jason's just doing his thing. That's what they say. That's what all the women who listen to the show say. Jason's just doing his thing. Anyways, the Winnie the Pooh joke I thought was funny. I actually laughed. Arm around your honey. Oh, you're Winnie the Pooh. That's literal. And then I kept telling Winnie the Pooh jokes for the next minute or two, and I was like, this is stupid. First one was funny, but then you're like, oh, bother, my head's in a pile of honey, or oh, bother, hairy hands, or whatever. I was like, dude, it was like mildly funny the first time, and now I'm getting irritated. But I thought and that was a good. I really liked that story. The hair. I actually remembered it being the main story of an episode. I didn't know it was the starter story, which is what I call those guys. It's a strong one. Tons of witnesses. Phenomenon happening over time, and then a good theory. What was it? Was it actually trying to prevent car accidents? Really cool story. I'm actually surprised it's at the beginning. And I do think it's overshadowed by the fun of the interactive adventure. There's two great things going on in the ending. There's the interactive adventure, which I love doing, but they're super hard. There's probably only, I could be wrong, but maybe 10 or 12 across 1,600 episodes. Again, I think it's more special when they're rare. It requires a lot of time. I know the episodes are always longer than normal episodes, because, I'm making it up as I go along, and not the stories themselves, but what happens to you. I don't know what happens to you when I sit down to record it. I go, oh, this guy's going to get strangled by a baby or whatever. I picked number 3, and I'll talk about that in a second. It is a flaw of the show, but the big flaw, especially of the early episodes, but I sit down and I go, these are the 5 things I'm going to highlight, and then I don't know how they're going to die. So it can take a while. It can take a while for me to think of something clever or funny or scary, or preferably all 3. And it requires a grouping. We did the Gladiator one. That was a good interactive adventure. I think the first one was Can You Survive Lucky Boy Mine, which is probably one of my favorite episodes of the podcast. I've actually listened to that episode multiple times over the years. I haven't listened to it in a couple of years, but I listened to that episode a couple of times. I love that story. I'll put that episode in the show notes. I love that ghost story. And then when I was telling it, I go, well, let's do something different. Let's try to do a choose your own adventure. So I think this worked with this one as well, because otherwise it's just me going, what? That's stupid. It's funny. It is. Those were goofy ghost stories, but it's funny when you guys get to be a part of it and I get to kind of go off script. Like, there's no script anyways, but you know what I mean? Like, to riff on the haunting. Yeah, I think it was a good episode. I think it was enjoyable. It was funny. And, talking about Backpacker Verse, talking about scam websites, like, it was kind of firing on all cylinders. I kind of got to do all the stuff I like to do about Dead Rabbit Radio. I will say this, talking about, again, I cringed. I literally cringed when I said, yeah, I wrote this down. It's Friday. I'm a little feisty. That's stupid. That's dumb. I almost want to go in and edit that out and then go in and change the original episode and then re-upload it. Dumb. Stupid. It probably was a Friday. I might have been feisty, but I don't use that word to describe myself, except then and just now. That's a ridiculous... It's irritating that I use that word, and everyone's going to YouTube comment, hey, feisty fella. I don't care if other people describe me as that. It's just dumb, and it sounds stupid. It almost sounds like I was trying to make it a catchphrase or something like that. I'm sure it's a callback to me saying it before, probably like the episode where I was high on Benadryl trying to talk about aliens. But it was dumb. It was not funny at all. The creepy laugh, though, was really cool. The... Number 4, if you pick number 4, that death I thought was really cool. I thought that was an awesome death, an awesome bonus. Now I picked number 3, and this is a problem with early episodes of the show. As much as I kind of complain about how long episodes are now, it's a lot harder to get lost nowadays, I feel. Because the episode's long, and I'm only talking about 2 stories, so, I mean, it usually has about a 5-minute intro, and that's a little long, I know, but, we do the intro, we do the introductions, introduce the Patreon guy. It's kind of like a warm-up. It's time for you to take a bite out of your sandwich or get settled down during your lunch break or whatever. It could be a little bit shorter. It gets longer because I go, we're going to do a movie night, I'm getting ready for vacation, stuff like that. I actually say it's probably not 5 minutes, probably closer to 3 minutes, but I try to keep it entertaining. And then we do one segment, it's about 15, 20 minutes, and then we do a second segment, it's probably about 20, 30 minutes. When you go through them very quickly, I actually did not hear how I died. I was listening to the episode, and I was playing some clicker game in the browser window next to it. Chicken game, like I was clicking on chickens or something. And then it goes, if you pick number 3, that happened to you. And I go, what happened to me? I totally don't even remember what I was talking about. I had to rewind the episode. I was like, oh, the Whaley house, the Violet, the ghost Violet making the imitation baby noises. And then when I focused on it, I go, oh, that was pretty creepy. That was actually like a cool, concise ghost story. But the early episodes, and I've talked about it a couple times during these classics here, I will completely zone out and miss a segment. And since the segments were only like 5 or 10 minutes, it's done. It's gone. Now, I don't make it longer now because of that, but I think it's a strength of it. I think it's funny because I go, how did I talk about this stuff so quickly back then? And I talk about it longer now. I feel like it's just as entertaining. The Harry Hand story, it's funny to think that could have been longer. How? I don't know. But it just seemed to go by so quick. The episode's only 30 or 40 minutes or something crazy like that. How long was that episode? Let me take a look here. Let me pull it up again real quick. I think it was 33 minutes long. That's insane. I wish I could make them that short again. But again, I'd have to balance out going too fast. I got a Yogi Bear impression in there. I'm always very proud of my "Hey Boo Boo, what do you know? We go to the Backpackerverse." That's the only impression I can do. Well, people do compliment my Trump. They say it's huge. Recently, I did that with President Trump. Got shot. He was the Antichrist. He was trying to deny that his brains got blown out. Secret Service, I'm not saying that's a good idea. I'm just saying that reminded me of that joke. My Trump impression's terrible. One thing that's interesting, a little bit of lore drop, and then we'll move on and then we'll wrap it up, because I just think the episode's good all around. One thing before we move on to the ending, a little bit of a lore drop. Again, there are people who listen to the show from the beginning, and people who didn't catch it when it was coming out have gone back and listened to all the episodes from the beginning. There was a point in time where all the vehicles in the Dead Rabbit Radio garage were destroyed. I don't remember who did it. I think it might have been Hans, Wormhat, and then Mungo. I don't remember. There was some sort of global group after me. There was a mid-season ad I did. And I only did it once. I thought about doing it again, but I just couldn't think of anything good. I'm not going to force it. I have a big thing about forcing stuff. Same thing with the interactive episodes. There's more interactive episodes I could do, but I'd be forcing it. I'd be forcing this one to be interactive. There was I wonder if I can find it. Oh, I'm recording this at like 6 in the morning. I wonder if I could find it. It's somewhere in the lineup, but it was like it's not even an episode. It's like a 3-minute ad break released between seasons, but it should be up on the podcast host where all the vehicles get destroyed. And I just thought it was funny. I just thought it would be a funny thing to record. It didn't have any like deep meaning, but now when you listen to this where I go, the Jason Jalape's back in action because it was blowing up at one point. And I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny. I thought this episode really worked. What I also really liked was the ending. This is something that I think, I always talk about, I think the show's better than it used to be. I think the topics were better back then, but I think the show itself is better now. I do think the endings were also better back then. I think I put more, I don't want to say effort, but more brain power into the endings in the first 400 or 500 episodes, maybe first 700 episodes. However, there would be times where I would be sitting in the studio for 15, 20 minutes trying to think of the perfect ending. And I had, that's a judgment call I had to make. I think there was two issues that were going on with the endings. One is I realized I was starting to repeat myself. You listen to the old, not episodes like around this up until maybe 500 or 600. Sometimes they just have these really awesome endings, almost like my own little short horror story I'm adding on to the end. And I was really proud of them. I really enjoyed doing that. But I found myself starting to repeat things. And they took an inordinate amount of time. It took maybe, no joke, 20 minutes of brainstorming to get a 3-minute ending. And I just had to make the call. I had to go, I really love doing this. I really love having these super dynamic endings. This one isn't one of the ones I'm thinking of. I think this one did have a strong ending. But there are other ones that the end of it is almost like a little short horror story. And I just go, it's taking way too long, dude. Like, if you come up with a good ending while you're typing up your notes or whatever, then you're fine. And there are times now where I'll actually record an episode and I don't know how to end it at all. I don't even know how to wrap it up. And what I do now is I stop recording, I go and do something for an hour, and then I sit back down and just get the ending done. But even then, they're not as dynamic as they used to be. I do think the endings were better back in the day. They're okay now. They're just okay now. And I'm not a guy who... I'm not a perfectionist. I think it's okay to be okay. I think, I've always described myself as a jobber. It's a wrestling term for the guy who comes out and wrestles The Rock and wrestles Triple H and Sting and all those guys. But they're not a name wrestler. They're just there to put The Rock over. They're there for The Rock to beat up on a Tuesday night. Just as a not even a warm-up. I mean, it's just like a jobber. It's kind of like a guy, his job is to be the wrestler who puts up a good fight but loses. You're still a showman. You still have skill. You're still putting in effort, but you're not a superstar. And that's how I've always seen myself with writing and with music and with the podcast. There are way, way more professionally put together podcasts than Dead Rabbit Radio. And I don't phone it in. We've talked about that a lot over these classics episodes of me like scrapping episodes, me recording stuff at the last hour. Like right now, I'm recording this. I'm hoping to record 2 more classics for you guys before I edit as much as I can today, because I'm on a plane in around 24 hours from recording this. And I'm going to try to record 2 more episodes, 2 more classics, and get a bunch of... I don't phone it in at all. But I also don't think that every episode's absolutely perfect. I think it's as good as I could do at the time I'm recording it. I really do feel that. Because if it's not, I'll scrap it, as hard as that is. And that was part of the reason why I cut this week short of new episodes. Season 30 just had one new episode, and then because I was like, there is not a way that I'm going to be able to record 2 or even one more really good episodes with the amount of stress and pressure I'm under getting ready for the trip. Because all the kitten stuff too. And I poorly planned this stuff. But again, I didn't expect to have 3 kittens, right? This is, it's a lot of work. But anyways, I don't like making that decision. But I could put out 2 episodes. I could record 2 episodes, but I don't think they're going to be any good. I'd rather start my vacation a little bit early, do some classics. They're a little more laid back. Get that content out that I'm proud of, rather than busting some stuff out. Now, next season, we're going to be much better planned. We're not going to be missing episodes and stuff like that. But anyways, no, I really like this episode. I think this is one that when I think of what is Dead Rabbit Radio, what is Dead Rabbit Radio to you, it's episodes like this. Funny, informative, entertaining, right? And then we're talking about ghosts and scam sites and all of that stuff. I think it fires on all cylinders. I really do. It's a good one, I feel. The jokes are weak. Some of them, right? There was one joke that I actually laughed at. Oh, the Winnie the Pooh one, the one that I eventually got tired of myself. But no, I enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I think I'm going to roll right off this and record 2 more classics, because I actually have 2 more episodes I got a lot to say about. So, speaking of not knowing how to end an episode.
Are you noticing your car insurance rate creep up even without tickets or claims? You're not alone. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry handles the legwork by comparing quotes side by side from over 50 top insurers, so you can confidently hit buy. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Jerry even tracks rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Don't settle for higher rates. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.AI/LIBSYN.
A text says, "You're on my mind." A bouquet from 1-800-Flowers says, "You're my everything." Heartfelt moments belong in the real world, not just your phone. For 50 years, 1-800-Flowers has helped millions of people make memories that'll last a lifetime with gifts they'll cherish forever. Their expertly curated arrangements and gift baskets ship nationwide with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Don't wait for the next big moment. Make it when you visit 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.